God bless you all. This is JP from Ministry of the Word NYC. Now, the persecution in China for Christians is out of control, and us Christians need to start praying for the Christians in China. I remember some time ago when a Christian Chinese individual came to my church. They were here for a couple of months, and I had a conversation with the young lady, and she tells me that her brother was evangelizing in China, and he disappeared. I go, what do you mean he disappeared? She goes, well, my brother was preaching the gospel. He was doing street evangelism. He was giving out tracts, and then he just disappeared. And I go, did you contact the authorities? She goes, yeah, I contacted the authorities, but the authorities don't know anything. He just literally disappeared. And this young lady almost starts to break down crying, and she tells me that in China, if you preach the gospel, there's a chance that you won't make it back. In fact, China has one of the biggest churches, but they persecute the pastors all the time. A pastor isn't a pastor for a church in China for any longer than a year. And let me emphasize that these are underground churches. And when you're caught having an underground church, chances are if you're a pastor, your survival rate isn't going to be very high. In order to have a legal church in China, you need to have the church registered with the Chinese government. Now, if you do have the church registered under the Chinese government, you just can't preach whatever you want to preach because the Chinese government has you under surveillance. So in order to preach the full gospel, you'd have to go underground. And we know what happens to people who go underground in China. But now the Chinese government is saying, you know what? Persecuting the church ain't enough. Killing people over the gospel ain't enough. Pushing our political views as a religion isn't enough. Now let's take the Bible and let's change the content of what's in the Bible so that we can make it out to seem like Jesus isn't God. So what the Chinese government is doing now is they're changing the Bibles to say that Jesus stoned the woman that was a sinner. As you guys know, Jesus said, he who's without sin cast the first stone. Well, in this edition of the Bible, the Chinese government edition of the Bible, Jesus says, I too am a sinner, but if the law could be executed by men without blemish, the law would be dead. So ladies and gentlemen, you see the Chinese government's attempts to try to discredit Jesus Christ because they know he's God. And always remember, someone may try to use this to try to discredit the gospel, right? Let's say you're street preaching one day or evangelizing to someone one day. Someone could tell you the Bible's been changed. The Chinese edition says Jesus admitted he was a sinner. But always remember, and I had this conversation with somebody as I was street preaching in the streets, we don't go by the translation. We go by what's on the manuscripts. The manuscripts aren't changed. So even if someone makes a million Bibles with different translations to what they want it to say, we don't go by that Bible. Our final authority are the manuscripts, not different translations of the Bible. Now, the reason this is an issue is because China's goal is to mass produce these Bibles so that the generation coming up be too confused to differentiate between other translations, and then they stray away from Christianity, which is what China really wants. And so we have to start praying for this nation because there's a lot of Christians in this pagan society. Let's just say how it is. A pagan society that believes its government is God instead of the gospel. That's what China is right now. We have genuine brothers and sisters in Christ who are just disappearing for spreading the gospel. And China seems to be getting away with this, and no one's talking about it. And guess what? It's time to pray for your own nation, regardless if you're Canadian, American, from the UK, because this stuff is going to start trickling down to us. Eventually, it'll become illegal to spread the gospel. I mean, come on, let's not be blind to the fact. The government doesn't like the gospel. Not your government, not my government. I'm American. Some of you guys are Canadian. A lot of you guys are from the UK. The government doesn't like the gospel. Are you telling me that if the government had the opportunity to ban the gospel in your country, they wouldn't do it? Absolutely they will. And the fact of the matter is, it's only a matter of time. So let's keep our brothers in China in prayer. Send this video out. And if not this video, at least send the link out. The link is in the description box. Spread awareness to this. We can't allow China to just do what they're doing without people realizing that they're doing it. Prayers matter, and we can't be ignorant to the fact that our brothers and sisters in China are disappearing for spreading the gospel. And now it's going to be even harder to get you a genuine copy of the Bible in China, because the government is even sticking its hand on that. God bless you all. For those of you guys that have been asking, my Facebook page is in the description box below. I love connecting with you guys. God bless you all.